Star Wars Expanded Universe Character Spotlight. Exar Kun. Super, super important character. A character that we see mentioned throughout the Legends timeline. So, absolutely awesome. One of my favorite villains in all Star Wars. Seeing his journey and seeing how he ended up falling into the dark side. So, yes, he is a Dark Lord of the Sith, and seeing that is just absolutely amazing, that journey. His first appearance, Exar Kun's first appearance, was or is in the novel Dark Apprentice in the Jedi Academy trilogy. His final appearance is in Book 3, Champions of the Force. That's where we see his final defeat, his final demise. That trilogy was written by Kevin J. Anderson and released in early 94. Later on in the fall, Kevin J. Anderson released Tales of the Jedi comics, specifically Dark Lords of the Sith, where we explore the background of Exar Kun and how he ended up being where we read about him on Yavin 4. So the Jedi Academy trilogy takes place about 11 years after the Battle of Yavin. The Tales of the Jedi comics, Dark Lords of the Sith, Sith War, take place roughly about 4,000 years prior to that. So there's a lot of history with Exar Kun, definitely. His master was Vodo Bas, and we see him as a Jedi in the comics, and we see how he transforms or how he transitions and falls into the dark side. So before going on, in the Jedi Academy trilogy, where we first read about him, he's a spirit. His consciousness or his spirit is, you could say, haunting. It's not a horror book, but his spirit is influencing characters in that trilogy, specifically in the Jedi Academy. So Jedi Academy trilogy, it's an important part of Star Wars because that's where we really see Luke Skywalker. That's where we see him ask the New Republic they grant him permission to establish this new Jedi Order of Jedi Knights. And that's where Luke Skywalker begins that journey, carrying on what Yoda told him to do. And he ends up searching for individuals who are force sensitive and having them as Jedi trainees. And those are the individuals who Exar Kun on Yavin 4 is influencing. So yes, Luke Skywalker chooses Yavin 4 to be his base, his Jedi Academy. And in those temples that we see in A New Hope, that's where Exar Kun's spirit lives on. But yeah, in the Tales of the Jedi comics, we see him. It's the prequel. Tales of the Jedi comics, starting with Dark Lords of the Sith, is the prequel to the Jedi Academy trilogy. So same thing as the prequels, we see Anakin's fall. Here we see Exar Kun along with a lot of other characters. It's a huge series, and a very, very important series, and we see his downfall to the dark side. Another fact about Exar Kun is this is the first character in all Star Wars that we see holding a double-bladed lightsaber. Actually, I remember seeing the trailer I forgot if it was 98, for Phantom Menace. And when we see Darth Maul, we didn't know who Darth Maul was or who this character was. But when we see that character, Darth Maul, holding that double-bladed lightsaber, igniting both ends, I thought right away, Exar Kun. Right away, I clearly remember that. So yes, interesting fact about Exar Kun. He's the first in all Star Wars history to hold that we see him holding that double-bladed lightsaber, which is absolutely awesome seeing that in the comics for sure. So yeah, in the comics we see him as a Jedi, and his curiosity and anger end up getting the best of him. So he ends up becoming very curious about these Sith teachings and Sith artifacts, and he gets warnings from his own master, Vodo Bas, as well as other masters about him leaning over towards the dark side to stay in the light. And he ends up just becoming sort of like an archaeologist, which is absolutely awesome, exploring caverns and caves and searching for these Sith artifacts. The artwork, FYI, is absolutely amazing in these comics. Very old school comics, old school artwork. I love it. But yeah, we see him as an archaeologist searching for Sith teachings and wanting more and gaining or finding these artifacts, as well as being influenced by other Sith spirits. So yeah, definitely we see his curiosity get the best of him. And I have to say that Exar Kun is one of my favorite villains in all Star Wars, and I'm not exaggerating. I remember reading the comics and just loving them every minute of it because they absolutely are amazing. So, yeah, he's a major player in Tales of the Jedi, major player, major villain in the Sith War. So once he has his complete downfall into the Sith, becoming a Dark Lord of the Sith, he ends up recruiting other Jedi. Other Jedi fall alongside with him, including a major character, a major protagonist in those comics, ends up being right by his side, unfortunately, temporarily, temporarily. So he was he was defeated twice, you can say, in the Tales of the Jedi comics, and then in the Jedi Academy trilogy, which I'll explain. Um, in the Sith War is just grand battle, amazing, just huge battle of hundreds and hundreds of Jedi Knights following or trying to find Exar Kun, which he ends up going to Yavin for in these temples, and he ends up accepting his fate that there's no way he can beat these hundreds of Jedi, and what he wants is for his spirit, his consciousness to live on. So he ends up performing this ritual, and his spirit leaves his body and ends up living in these temples. And then with these Jedi, they end up defeating his physical form, but his spirit lives on in these temples, and yes, he's trapped. So as I mentioned before, the Tales of the Jedi comics, these events of the Sith War take place about 4,000 years prior to a Battle of New Hope, and 11 years after the Battle of New Hope, he's still causing problems. So he's chilling for thousands of years, and when Luke establishes his Jedi Academy on Yavin 4 in these temples, he he takes advantage and influences certain trainees and causes problems and ends up affecting Luke Skywalker extremely in a negative way, obviously. And his Jedi trainees have to take what they've learned. They're still students, but they, in this amazing form, they just they come together and they end up defeating Exar Kun once and for all, his spirit. Exar Kun, EU character, super awesome.